Greetings and salutations, DMs, GMs, referees, judges, game operations directors, and all other varieties of storytellers. This is your DM, Scott, and it's time for another DM Quick Tip.
It's the Beginner DM, 5 easy tips to start you on your journey this week on DM Quick Tips. Tip number 1, the rules are only a guide. Always keep that in mind. And since the very beginning of the game, the rules have always only been a guide. They're not engraved in stone, and they shouldn't be. As a new DM, I want you to keep in mind that the rules are a framework for you to tell your story within. Yes, they are important, and they should be followed when necessary. In contrast to that, the story should always come first. I'm not suggesting that you make up rules or totally ignore them all the time, but I will say that if a player comes up with something that's really awesome, but there's no rule for it, I'm going to let it happen. Because the rule of cool is my number one rule. I want my games to be cinematic, and I want players to be the heroes. I want them to talk about how awesome the game session was, how awesome a character was in their moment in the spotlight. If the rules are getting in the way from something awesome happening, if they're going to kill a cinematic moment for a player character, then I'm going to ignore it for the sake of the story. The other thing to consider is that there is no way that the game developers can think of every single situation and a ruling for every one of those situations. That's just not possible, and that's why developing improvisational techniques as a DM is really important. You're going to have to make judgments on the fly. If you want to keep the game moving, you do not have enough time to dig around through the Dungeon Master's Guide or the Player's Handbook or any of those other books that are in the mountain of books 5th Ed now offers. Make a judgment. The rules are just a guideline, and your rulings are what is most important. Tip number 2, safety first. We talked about this on the podcast quite a bit, but it's worth stressing to the new DM. Safety should always come first. Well, what do I mean by this? We never know what a person's individual experiences in life are. People only tell you what they want you to know. Safety and the comfort of your players should always be first and foremost. It is imperative that you take the time to speak with your players about what topics are off limits. Trust me, they'll tell you. Once you are made aware of what topics are off limits, then you absolutely have to be respectful of that all the time. You can't always account for every situation, every scenario that might make a player uncomfortable. There are going to be times where it may not even be an off-limits topic that makes someone uncomfortable. It just may be a particular situation and how it's played out. Establish a culture of comfort at the table where if a player is uncomfortable with what is unfolding, they can raise their hand and just express that level of discomfort they have. Respectfully, have a discussion regarding it without delving too deep into the reasons why, because you really don't need to know why. Understand what makes them uncomfortable and take that situation in a different direction. Always do so with a degree of sensitivity and respect. Tip number 3, hold a session 0. Hold that session 0 before you begin playing the campaign. This is a great opportunity to build characters, discuss the theme of the campaign, and have a discussion about item number 2. I won't go into a lot of detail about session 0 because we talked a great deal about it on the podcast quite a few times. Suffice it to say that it is my opinion that this is very important to a successful campaign and to have a table full of happy players. Please feel free and be encouraged to check our back catalog of episodes for more information on Session 0. Tip number 4, you don't have to be an actor to roleplay well. The internet is full of actors playing Dungeons & Dragons. It's full of talented individuals within the community playing Dungeons & Dragons. For a new DM, watching these individuals can be discouraging. You do not have to be a professional dungeon master, a voice actor, or an actor at all to be effective at role-playing and running or playing games. To be effective at running a game, you just have to be able to tell a good story, get your players invested, and provide them with a fun experience. You don't need to do fancy accents. No one expects that you give an Oscar-worthy performance. They just want to have a good time. Tip number 5, the goal is to have fun. Have fun with the game. Have fun running it. Have fun playing it. And enjoy it with your friends sitting around the table. That's really it. That's the most important thing, and that's the thing that you should always keep in mind no matter how long you were involved in this hobby, whether it's a week or whether it's 40 or more years. The goal, the foundation of the game, is to have a good time with your friends. Now, there are many tips a new DM needs, but these are just 5. We'll see you next time in the dojo.